What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, back with another fantasy football video. And yesterday I talked about 3 must draft running backs. Today, same type of video, but I'm going to be talking about 3 must draft wide receivers. So these are just players that I think are going way too late, and I just think they're great values at their current ADP. So I'll go through where they're being drafted and then just kind of do a player breakdown, so why I do like them at their current price. All I ask is that while you guys are watching, if you're enjoying the content, just do me a huge favor, hit that like button and then subscribe to the channel. And then let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you guys agree that these players are values, or do you think some other guys, are great values at their current price? Let me know down below and I'll make sure to get back to every single person. But let's just jump into my favorite value right now, and that is going to be Diontae Johnson. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 15. That is a late third, early fourth round pick. And like I mentioned, he is my favorite value here at the wide receiver position. In my rankings, he is my wide receiver 7. And, if he was being drafted at this point, I would be taking him late second. Obviously, just understanding overall value, I wouldn't be drafting him late second, because the odds are if I'm picking him late second, I can probably get him early third because he is still going to be on the board. But I just do not understand this wide receiver 15 ADP. He's a young wide receiver. It's not like we're expecting regression because of age. He just turned in a wide receiver 1 season, finished as the wide receiver 9 in points per game, averaged 17.2 points per game. That is a great season. And for some reason, people are expecting some decent regression from that wide receiver 9 finish going down to wide receiver 15. And this is because of why he went from Big Ben to now Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. In my opinion, those are both clear upgrades. There's just no way the Steelers quarterback this year is going to be worse than Ben Roethlisberger. And overall, he is just a great all-around wide receiver. He can win at all 3 levels. Last season and last few seasons, he's had to be more of a quick option just because of Ben Roethlisberger. His ADOT last year was 8.2 yards, but we saw him finish 2nd in targets, 4th in target share, 8th in red zone targets, 5th in receptions, 9th in receiving yards, and 6th in yards after catch. So that is very, very well-rounded production. Also, on a week-to-week basis, he had a very, safe floor, a high floor. The lowest scoring week he had all season was 9.8 points, and so he actually put up double-digit points in 15 out of 16 weeks. That is crazy, crazy high consistency. So you can count on him weekly. You know he's going to give you a really solid average, and I honestly think he can improve this year. Maybe get some more work down the field. He really was just limited last year because Big Ben was unable to, push it deep, so they needed him more in the close range. But for me, since I view him as honestly a mid-tier wide receiver 1, getting him at a high to mid-end wide receiver 2 value is fantastic, because I can go, maybe I go second round, I go wide receiver, and I can snag him late third. In my opinion, I'm getting 2 locked-in wide receiver 1s. And so he is someone I'm definitely going to be drafting heavily all offseason long heading into the 2022 season. The second wide receiver that I think is a great value right now is going to be going a few rounds later, and that is Darnell Mooney, being drafted as the wide receiver 31, a 6th round pick. And I think this is just a really nice price here for Darnell Mooney. He actually finished as the wide receiver 31 in points per game last year. So where he finished in points per game, that is where he is currently being drafted. But really everything that's happened to him this offseason points to improvement from that wide receiver 31 finish. Starting off with the Bears wide receiver room, it is somehow worse than last year. They had a terrible unit last year, but at least you had Allen Robinson, or a shell of Allen Robinson, with Mooney there. Now he is the only proven weapon in that wide receiver room. These are the names that he is competing with. And this isn't like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. These are the names who are going to be competing for the wide receiver 2 spot. We've got Byron Pringle. I don't know how to say this dude's first name. Came from the Packers. Quanamius St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother. He's done nothing in the NFL. Velus Jones, they drafted him. Tajay Sharp. And then Dante Pettis. That is his target competition at the wide receiver position. Another positive here is I think we have to expect Justin Fields to take a step forward as a passer. He did struggle pretty heavily last year, but another year of experience, I'd assume he would be better. And even though he does have horrible weapons this year, the Bears just failed him all over last year. The personnel was bad. The coaching was abysmal. he just looked lost. Like he was just set up to fail last year. So even though these weapons are terrible, I still think he's going to have better coaching heading into this season. They know he's the starter. Remember last year, the offense wasn't even really based around him. They had Andy Dalton starting off. They threw Justin Fields in there. The whole thing was a mess. But it's just hard to imagine him having a worse passing season, given a full offseason with him as the number one. And then the last reason I think he's going to improve is he is still a very young wide receiver. I think he's going to take a step forward as a wide receiver. He put together an 1,000-yard season last year in just his second season in the NFL. And I know, there was some weird stuff with Allen Robinson. Bears weren't targeting him a ton. But, the year before, Allen Robinson was productive, and Darnell Mooney wildly outperformed him. I don't know if, any of us in the public truly know what happened with Allen Robinson last year. But regardless, we probably won't know until we see how he does with the Rams here. But Darnell Mooney put up significantly better production. So given all of these reasons, I just think it's very, very likely he's going to outperform that wide receiver 31 ADP. And I think I talked about second-year wide receivers in a recent video, talked about how all these guys are going in a very similar range. Darnell Mooney is thrown in this range as well. So looking at the players picked around him, you've got your Elijah Moores, your Amon-Ra's, all these young guys, plus the rookies are thrown in there. And many of these players are either young and unproven, or they're young, kind of proven, but have decent target competition. So your unproven guys, kind of like Rashad Bateman, your Treylon Burks, your Drake London. And then you have the more proven guys, Amon-Ra, Elijah Moore, Devonta Smith, but they all have target competition. Mooney has proven himself to be a solid NFL wide receiver, and I think he could be a legit mid-tier wide receiver too for fantasy. Just by the default wide receiver on this team, he's going to be fed targets by Justin Fields, and that is why I think he is a very strong pick here in the 6th round. And if you can get him as your wide receiver 3, I think that is a great value. And then the third and final wide receiver I'm going to be talking about here, it is going to be Adam Thielen. He is being drafted as the wide receiver 38, a round later than Darnell Mooney here in the 7th round. And I think I did a video talking about best ball values, and Adam Thielen was definitely on there. And his ADP has actually fallen a few spots since I made that video pre-draft. I just want to go through his fantasy football finishes over the last 5 years, and this is in points per game. Keep in mind, he is being drafted as the wide receiver 38. That is like a high-end wide receiver 4. So 2017, wide receiver 11. 2018, wide receiver 7. 2019, wide receiver 44. 2020, wide receiver 11. 2021, wide receiver 14. That is 3 wide receiver 1 finishes, and then 1 high-end wide receiver 2 finish, and then a wide receiver 4 that was a major outlier in 2019. And even if he does regress, he's probably due for some regression. He's getting older, heading into the age 32 season. He's not going to be the same wide receiver he was in 2017 and 2018 when he was going out, giving you 80 yards a game, being a clear, duo there with Stephon Diggs. But I have no doubt that he can turn in a low-end wide receiver 2 season, high-end wide receiver 3 season. This Vikings offense runs entirely through Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook. Those are the 3 guys. They don't really have many other players who are super involved. Those guys are going to get the bulk of the opportunities and the touches. And behind Thielen, there's basically no target competition. It's not like this is a situation where you have a young up-and-coming wide receiver who may overtake him for the wide receiver 2 spot. He is locked into that wide receiver 2 position in this offense. This is going to be a fairly high-volume passing attack, and Thielen has really proven himself to be a solid red zone threat these past 2 seasons. I know that touchdowns can be volatile, and that's totally true, but I really don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as Justin Jefferson shows up, starts balling out, Adam Thielen gets his first double-digit touchdown season of his career, and then repeats it in the 2021 season. The past 2 years, he's seen 35 red zone targets. That is a high number, and the even more impressive thing is he has caught 29 of them. That is crazy efficiency in the red zone. So he's getting the opportunity, and he's producing when he does get it. So I really just feel like there's no reason for Adam Thielen to be going this low. He could suffer a massive fall off, from his last few seasons and still outperform this wide receiver 38 ADP. And it's just crazy to me that when we're going to be looking at some people's teams, people are going to have Adam Thielen as their wide receiver 4. He's going to be just sitting on the bench as a wide receiver, someone who has been a high-end wide receiver 2 or better 4 of the last 5 years. So I would be all over the Adam Thielen value. And those are the 3 players: Diontae Johnson, we had Darnell Mooney, and then Adam Thielen. Well, let me know what you guys think about those players down below. As always, thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.